I didn't know this before I was reading this. You were not raised in the Islamic religion. You converted as a young man. I didn't even know you went to prison. No, I'm joking about that. I would say that the threat potentially from radicalized Muslims is a unique and greater threat. It is the greatest threat. Let me give you the reasons why I jotted down why. One, it's been going on 1,000 years, this problem between Islam and the West. We are dealing with a culture that is in its medieval era.
Well, it's been going on for so long. I mean, this is getting to be a repeat story now, and the time has come for it to end.
It comes from a hate-filled holy book, the Quran, which is taken very literally by its people. They are trying to get nuclear weapons. I don't think Tim McVeigh would ever have tried to get a nuclear weapon because I think right-wing nuts, they think they love this country and they are not trying to destroy this country. They want to get it away from the people they see as hijacking it. That's different than Muslim extremists who want to destroy it. And also it's a culture of suicide bombing, which is hard to deter from people who want to kill themselves.
Well, I tell you, Bill, I think that you should investigate this issue a little more because I think that you're lumping together things that shouldn't be lumped together, and you're casting a very wide net and therefore coming to the wrong conclusions.
Once again, Muslims in Nigeria have proven again their intolerance and their absolute atrocities in the name of your prophet. And what you did again was you went and slaughtered 19 Christians at prayer. If you want to be treated right and you're a Muslim, leave our people alone.
Yeah, but Muslims aren't.
And obviously there is something that is going on that they're getting from the Quran.
They're not getting it from the Quran. Their books are complex. They're compiled, and taking them out of context is a very easy thing to do.
I've heard this many times, and I don't buy it. On almost every page, the Quran instructs observant Muslims to despise non-believers.
That's absurd. You know, quite frankly, you are the worst excuse for a journalist I've ever seen.
UN workers were killed because Reverend Yosemite Sam here in America burned a Quran, which no one thinks is a good idea. But, you know, I'm very disturbed at the way Western people...
To the noble people of Afghanistan. Salamu alaikum. To the noble people of Afghanistan. Salamu alaikum.
Burning the holy book was hateful, it was intolerant, it was extremely disrespectful, we condemn it. All this talk about the people who burned the Quran and nothing about the people who reacted in such a stupid way. We are always blaming the victim and not holding them, not most Muslims, but at least a large part of the Muslim culture that doesn't condemn their people. Listen to Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham's quote. I wish we could find a way to hold people accountable. Free speech is a great idea, but we're in a war. I get really nervous when people say free speech is great, but...
Insulting somebody else or putting somebody else down can incite violence and can make people lose their lives.
350 Kansas City Muslims want Americans' freedom of speech to ban language that defames, insults, or provokes violence. They're calling on President Obama to draw a line between free speech and hate speech.
We want people to be free to say whatever they want, but again, we need some responsibility here. There's a difference between criticism and hate.
And don't complain anymore. You complain because someone makes up a cartoon about your prophet, and you almost threaten to kill him. In the meantime, you've got Muslims going down and slaughtering Christians at prayer. Now that doesn't cut it. And if you want to play that game, we'll play it.
Islamic leaders warn if we don't restrict insulting speech, attacks like the killing of United States Ambassador Christopher Stevens in Libya are bound to reoccur.
And especially the right to do something offensive and disgusting and blasphemous. It comes down to blasphemy, Bill. That's what it comes down to.
Well,
and this country, thank God,
what it comes down to is that there is one religion in the world that kills you when you disagree with them. And they say, look, we are a religion of peace, and if you disagree, we'll fucking cut your head off.
Yeah.
And nobody calls them on it, or very few people call them on that. You know, it's like if dad is a violent drunk and beats his kids. You don't blame the kid because he set dad off. You blame dad because he's a violent drunk.
Political correctness can lead to some kind of paralysis where you don't address reality.
When you say, well, this is what the Muslims are going to do if you burn a Quran, they're going to fucking kill some people.
But when I get on a plane, I got to tell you, if I see people who are in Muslim garb and I think, they're identifying themselves first and foremost as Muslims, I get worried. I get nervous.
Quite frankly, you are the worst excuse for a journalist I've ever seen.
Now, I remember also that when that Times Square bomber was at court, I think this is just last week, he said the war with Muslims, America's war with is just beginning. First drop of blood.
Well, there isn't any theology involved in this at all from my perspective. Well, you can't really say the Muslims attacked us on 9/11.
Quite frankly, you are the worst excuse for a journalist I've ever seen.
And there were a lot of people who reacted to this, and how dare you do this? Well, the problem is that liberals see this picture, and they go, this is not all Muslims. Most Muslims don't go in the street like this. The point she was making, that I've tried to make, is, yeah, but most Muslims, at least half of them, I think, around the world, think it is okay to kill somebody if they insult the Prophet. And that is a big problem. That is a clash of civilizations.
No, I think you've got the facts there, and I think the question is how do you react to it. I agree. Intellectually, everything you say is true.
Quite frankly, you are the worst excuse for a journalist I've ever seen.
About what happens when you insult the Prophet.
Have you ever lived in the Middle East? Have you ever lived over there?
Of course not.
Okay, all right.
What sort of a question is that? Have I ever lived there? I'd be dead.
اللي يسب النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام هل لو جاء واعتذر وقبل الحذاء وقال أنا عايز كل المسلمين يعدوا وكل واحد يضربني بالنعل، هل من حق الحاكم أن يقبل هذا؟ ده سؤال أنا بطرحه وهجاوب عليه.
نعم.
الجواب أنه لا يجوز لأحد قط أن يقبل هذا. طب وما نعمل فيه إيه؟ نقتله. قال لك ده تاب، برضه نقتله حتى وإن تاب.